So, welcome to today's episode, our first ever one, titled Auto Trader is the Product. Today I've got two buddies from the product leadership team at Auto Trader. First up is Karolina Smajda, aka Kez. Karolina has the grand title of CPO, Chief Product Officer, and has a whopping 15 plus years at Auto Trader and is part of our operational leadership team. Ben, on the other hand, is a relative newbie. What's it, 5 years, Ben? Ben is one of our super senior product directors. As well as heading up the product community, is closely aligned to our design teams too. Hi, Kez. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Hey, Pete.
Cool. So welcome to the couches. Hopefully you're not finding it too hard with these mics in front of you. And with me in the hot seat, because usually it's you two giving me a grilling. Right, I'm going to kick off with a little bit of summary of Auto Trader and getting a bit of a taste of what things are about. So, Kez, you've been here 15 years. Isn't that nearly half your life? So when you started, it was all about printed magazines. Was there a point along the journey where Auto Trader started to feel like a very different company you joined, much more like a tech company?
So 15 years ago, when I joined, Auto Trader already had a website. So at the time, you were saying Auto Trader has a website rather than Auto Trader was a website. And we were in the process of launching our mobile site as well. So very exciting. But like overall, Auto Trader is a great example of the quoted externally quite a lot in terms of this print to digital transformation. However, that journey has been a long one. We've been very successful, very quickly actually, like seamlessly transitioning our customers, so retailers, from print to digital buyers, so buyers of the magazine and then users of our website, transitioning them to online, and then our revenues from print to digital. However, I feel like the actual transformation when we changed from being print business to digital business happened later on. So it's actually been about how we operate as a business rather than where our revenue comes from. And I think this was a true transition which happened probably 6 or 7 years ago versus 15 years ago when I joined, when the revenues were transitioning from print to digital. So how we are structured as a company, how we operate, how we build products, continuous delivery, one P&T team co-located in one location, our tech infrastructure, the setup, makeup of our business, all of that made us a truly digital company rather than where the money was coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in 10 years and it did feel like probably in the last 5, 6, it really has started to galvanise into that tech-focused company. I'll give you a break of talking because I know you've got a bit of a bad cold today.
Yeah,
so,
not great.
Ben, in the last 5 years, so thinking similar theme, you've been here now 5 years. Again, in that last 5 years, have you seen that sort of evolution change where it feels like, again, it's a different organisation than the one you joined?
I feel like quite a big change was about 18 months, 2 years ago when we sort of had a reorg across product and technology, just kind of coming out of COVID. But when I joined, we were organised around a number of different tribes within product and technology, all structured around a kind of functional domain area. So we had a stock and search tribe. We had a tribe that was called consumer buying experience, where I sat, which was all about building products for consumers and owning all the kind of consumer journeys, consumer touch points. We had the commercial products tribe, so the tribe that was responsible for building products that made money. We had the retailer tools and billing tribe, so they built all the tools that our customers, car dealers, interacted with and managed all the billing systems. And it felt like we were, everyone was structured around their domain areas and cared really deeply about one of our sets of users that we were building products for. And I feel like we've been on a bit of a journey over the last couple of years to sort of move to, I guess we wouldn't use language at Auto Trader like designing around customer journeys, but we now have product teams and tribes that are more structured around owning kind of the end-to-end delivery and operation of the products and services we're building. Whereas previously, if you wanted to build a product within the consumer tribe where we sat, invariably it would require other tribes to do some stuff to enable that, which would require some kind of trade-offs from a prioritization perspective. But now it feels like we're much more aligned around teams that are accountable for delivering end-to-end services and journeys.
Yeah. And is that something, I mean, again, a 5-year tenure doesn't sound long in Auto Traders land, other than you've got people 30 plus years. But is it something that you feel like enthused still? Like, is it what keeps you motivated after 5 years? And similarly, Kez, in a minute, after 15 years?
It's a really good question. I guess there's 3 things that I find like really exciting about our business still. The first is the industry within which we operate. Like for anyone that's interested in business more broadly, there doesn't get much more macro than the car industry. Whenever we look at things like, interest rates and inflation and, government policies around decarbonisation, things like that, they're all really macro things that all have a very material impact on us and what we do. So I think that's super exciting. And obviously, the drive towards electric vehicles is a big part of that as well. So there's lots of like changing macroeconomic things all the time that make the industry really interesting. The fact that we're a marketplace, I think, is like fascinating from a product perspective. We always have at least 2 different types of users to consider when we're building products. Often the interests of those users conflict or just oppose, so you have to find a way to navigate that marketplace dynamic. And the third one will sound like a bit of a cliche, but it is true. There's like just really, really good people at Auto Trader. Everyone really cares about what they do. We put a lot of effort into hiring and recruiting, and genuinely like a really good team of people to work with. So yeah, they're the 3 things that keep me as excited today as I was 5 years ago, probably more actually.
Cool. So what about yourself, Kez? Now you've managed to clear that little frog.
Well, Auto Trader is a constant evolution, like, because even from what you were saying, within 5 years, how much has changed in the way we are structured, in the way we work. So 15 years ago feels like completely different business as well. So how much how much change there is internally. So it feels like a different business every 5 years that you work in. Yeah. There is so much change happening externally in terms of how consumers buy, how retailers sell cars. And a lot of that change is driven by us. So we genuinely change how the UK car buyers buy cars. Like, it's pretty amazing. And every year you feel like you are making a true impact, like, making things happen. And I think what makes me, feel excited and, just wanting to stay even longer, there's so much more we have to do here. In terms of, improving the car buying in the UK. So, and people, like, I'm not sure there is a person in Auto Trader who wouldn't say that, that's not one of the reasons. People are amazing. You feel like we are all about working together, collaborating, making stuff happen as a team, like whether it's within P&T, working with our sales colleagues, like different areas of the business. We work together to make stuff happen. And that's how it feels. Yeah,
I totally get it, especially on the people from, I said I'd come for 2 years, came from a consultancy, and then I realised you truly could, when people say, be yourself, it's like, it is so refreshing, and every day is very different. The fact we got mics on doing a podcast today is a little bit insane, really.
I went on mat leave and I missed people. I was like, where are my friends gone? Like, so it was just really exciting to get back to work.
Yeah.
I think like before the pandemic, Auto Trader was quite unusual in that it was a big FTSE 100 company where almost the entire business was based in the same office, didn't have a big work from home culture. So most people were spending 5 days in the office, and a lot of our culture, and we may come on to talk about this later, was based around kind of collaboration, spending time together. When you have that, you don't need a lot of the process and systems that a lot of organisations need to put in to make sure that larger teams can function well together.
Cool. So just moving on. So we titled this talk, AT is the product. We were chatting a couple of weeks ago, Kez, with the design community, and you dropped that phrase into the conversation, which got a lot of the designers talking. But what actually do you mean by Auto Trader is the product?
I think there are a few ways to look at that. The first one is, Auto Trader generally is a product. It's a product that enables people, individuals in the UK, to buy a car, and enables retailers, car dealers to sell cars. So at this high level, it's a product, and there is everyone working at Auto Trader pretty much touches that product, whether it's building it, whether it's selling it, whether it's reporting on its performance, training, optimizing, all of that. So we are, in a way, a product organization. Of course, under the hood, like, you've got then loads of different products, services, tools that we would call products as well, that enable both buyers and sellers get their jobs done on Auto Trader, whether it's selling a car or buying a car. But at this highest level, it's Auto Trader.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And then to my point around everyone touches product, like, product people, when you think about it, it's they on their own, they can't do much. So it's all about product teams, which are much broader than just product. We have to think about P&T, product and technology, working together, making stuff happen. And I would include design, data, delivery in that as well. So you need like mix of people to work together to make stuff happen, which to make our Auto Trader product the best product it can be.
And Ben, is there, I know, again, 5 years feels relatively long time, but also quite short. Is there any particular product services that you've worked in that, looking back, are particularly memorable, either for good reasons or harder reasons, where you've had to learn quite fast?
Probably a couple of things to draw on. One of them is just how sensitive and influential our like search experiences, and how you think a very, very small change, which might appear inconsequential to somebody, could actually have a very material change on some of our metrics, which in turn have a very material change on our retailers' business. I'll give you an example. We either used to or we now display the town. That was it. We display the town where a car is located in the search results. Whereas before we just would show how many miles away it was from the user. It feels like a relevant piece of information when you're in Manchester to know that this car that's 50 miles away is in Sheffield or Liverpool. Sounds like a very obvious thing to do, but that in turn drove quite a reduction in like ongoing leads to the retailers, because a lot of people they didn't actually know where the car was, so they would inquire to the seller to say, where are you based? And you think that's such a small change, but actually has such a material knock-on impact. But anytime we do anything in that, like in the middle of kind of the search and the advert, is very, very sensitive, very, very emotional. I worked a few years ago on our price indicator system. I think it's a good example of how we have to navigate this marketplace dynamic, because as the product, we want to build the best product and the best marketplace for everybody, for buyers and sellers. And one of the things we do is making that process more transparent for people. And we have a system of price indicators where we help consumers understand how well priced a car is in relation to other vehicles on the marketplace. Looks like a great feature for consumers, makes loads of sense. I can see that car's a great price, that car's a high price, that car's a low price. Which is very, very emotive for our retailers, who are the people that advertise in the cars, paying us an awful lot of money. If we start telling consumers that their cars are high priced, very, very emotive. But it's a really good example of how we have to navigate this really kind of gnarly marketplace dynamic between, trying to do what's best for everybody, which will often be a bit of a trade-off between buyers and sellers.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Kez? I know you've worked on various areas of the organisation. Any particular standout moments for you over the last 15 years?
Oh, there's just loads. Like, I think the most challenging products are the most exciting at the same time, because this is why the collaboration is so important. You need to get quite a few heads together to make some of those decisions and agree what the right way forward is. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. There's some interesting dynamics in our business model, I guess, because it's not only car buyers and sellers that have quite different needs quite often, and it's balancing the two. But then you've got Auto Trader at the another. It's like a triangle. You've got Auto Trader, strategic goals, commercial goals that you have to balance with customer needs, consumer needs at the same time. So any product like Price Indicator, great example in terms of being quite controversial to start with. So we had to think about what the right approach is, make sure it works for our customers, for retailers, as well as for consumers. And they are always the most exciting opportunities to tackle.
Yeah, no, totally get it. I mean, we were reflecting this morning. I think I've still got some scars from like working on internal systems. And again, you make some assumptions that this little change in the billing system won't have a material impact, and then you've got 200 of our sales colleagues going absolutely wild. I still think some of them have my name sort of red marked.
But what's great at Auto Trader, like, because of the scale that we've got and volume of users that come to Auto Trader, we can learn so quickly in terms of what's working and what's not. And we kind of take it for granted, but it's quite unusual. You can have the smallest test and very quickly learn if something is not working, and we need to think differently. So we are in a quite good. It's risky at the same time, but I think like if we can make it work in the right way, helps us to make the right decisions very quickly using data.
Yeah. You both talked about that healthy tension in the marketplace, but it's a term we use a lot, healthy tension, to drive best outcomes. So is that something, again, thinking internally within the organisation and the product and tech communities, how do we really get that balance between the community needs, like the designers, and say the product needs, and getting that healthy tension to drive that outcome that we're looking for?
It's a great question, because obviously we have like this tension exists from a product perspective in our marketplace, where we're trying to design and build for often like conflicting needs of users, but also within our teams, right? Everyone comes to work and cares passionately about what they want to do and wants to do a great job. And when you put a multidisciplinary product team together, you've often got people that care about really deeply about different parts of that project. So, from engineers will want to build the most robust, scalable solution with the best new technology. Product people will want to deliver value as quickly as possible to their users and prove it and measure it. Designers care about the needs of their users. You put all those things together, and you should get some level of kind of conflict, like good conflict, healthy tension. And the job of that product team is then to navigate that, to the best outcome. I think if you don't have that feeling of kind of tension and conflict, you're probably not pushing hard enough in one direction. I think part of our team, as part of our job as like product people and leaders in the organisation, is to make that a healthy experience, and not something where people feel they can turn up, care about what they do, voice their opinion, and ultimately work with people to get to the best outcome.
Yeah,
I think the key is making sure that tension is constructive, and I think in order to make it constructive, relationships are so important, like personal relationships of people, like you have to have the trust in the team. And we change teams quite a lot in terms of depending on what we are working on. So you often have to start over and over again. And, it's really important that we take time and effort to make sure that is in place, because that makes everything else so much easier.
Yeah, definitely on the relationships, something I see in my role, and trying to get that win-win, and that everybody is looking for the best outcome, and that challenge is fine.
And it takes time. You can't expect a group of brand new people to get into a room and trust each other enough to speak with candour and challenge each other, and that takes time. But I think as an organisation we recognise that, and we do invest a lot of time in getting those teams functioning really, really well. Yeah.
Something came up in a conversation. I was having a one-to-one with one of the peeps I work with the other day, and they're pretty new, and we're surprised about our like 2 in a box, 3 in a box, even 5 in a box model. We've got leadership teams where it's not one person looking after either a team, an area, a domain, whatever it might be. How have you found your experiences working in, I think, Kez, you've worked in many 2 in the boxes, so how have you found that personally from getting that win-win and that healthy tension?
I think, again, it's about collaboration, working together, accepting that there's never one solution to a problem. So it's always good to have different perspectives and people working together, throwing different ideas into the mix and challenging one another. Probably the worst decisions you can make is when everyone in the room just nods and agrees to it, because that means you are not having the right debate.
Yeah.
So even with Autotrader leadership team, like it's 16 of us, that's a big team, but this is where we have very diverse backgrounds, people representing different areas. We can really have a good, healthy debate about what we believe is right or wrong, and just make sure we come up with the best possible decisions. And that happens at different levels of organisation.
Yeah.
The same principle applies.
Yeah. What about yourself, Ben? I know we're operating currently. We've been thrown together as a tuna box. How are you finding that?
I love it. It's something that I've not experienced. Well, I obviously love that.
Oh no, not me. All right.
I think the kind of multiple people leadership of a thing, a tribe, a product. I'd not really seen it before I came to Autotrader. In fact, I'm surprised people haven't come and done some sort of study of it as a organisational structure, because it's really, really effective. I remember listening to a cricket podcast once with Andrew Flintoff, and this was always resonated with me, actually. He said I was a rubbish captain. I was rubbish as captain, but I was a brilliant vice captain. Because he didn't like the kind of the pressure, the responsibility that came with like you being ultimately the buck stopping with you and being responsible. But when as a vice captain, he felt like he was much more able to contribute naturally to the best of his abilities. I think that's quite similar to like a lot of how Autotrader structures. If you look around the organisation, there's very few places where you can say this one person is responsible for this, whether it's P&L or people. Like most of the organisational structure has, either two in a box or a small group of people that are collectively responsible for something. And, we don't always get those combinations of people right. And, Pete, you and I, we've been part of other leadership teams before that, didn't function as well as other ones, and that's totally fine. Like, we'll set something up, we'll see if it works, and if not, we'll move things. And as Kez said, we're always kind of changing our structure, whether that's because of priorities that we're going after, or we think there's a better way to get teams to perform better.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because talking about like organisation change, even things like we're doing today, is like, it does feel like people say, "Oh, try something and then fail fast and move on," but it does feel like we actually really do that. Like you said, is if a team isn't quite working, rather than just draw it out, we'll try and mix it up and see if a different combination or a slightly different angle works. And that's something I find refreshing, because there's always that opportunity where something will come round the corner.
I think culturally that comes from maybe what you were saying previously, Kez, about the journey we've been on, becoming a tech company and just having kind of, it sounds a bit of a cliche, but like a sort of experimental move quickly, try something. If it doesn't work, move on. If you have that right at the heart of your culture, then you end up kind of applying that to lots of different situations.
It is a skill, like it definitely is a skill, because you really need to watch out for signals and interpret that in the right way and be able to make a decision based on them at the right point in time, so you don't drag it for too long, but so you don't get cold feet too early either. So you really need to pay attention to what those signals are telling you. And then secondly is not getting attached to things and just just keeping going because you emotionally attached to something that you are creating, you invested in. I think we need to be as objective as we can be. And the Autotrader, we often say that we make something is a decision until it's not. And it's so good because the world around us changes all the time. So how can something be a decision if the world has moved on weeks, sometimes days, weeks, months on? Like, it would be a very different decision if you were making it then. So we need to be very open-minded and prepared to change our mind. Yeah. And I think we are quite good at it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest things. When I first came, I heard that phrase and I was like, yeah. And then actually seeing it in practice, because coming again from a consultancy background in old school engineering, it was like, no, that's decisions. It's in the decision log. It will not be unmade. And it is refreshing that things can change, and then a decision a year ago is now not a decision, and we can go left or right.
Yeah, there's a bit of it's almost quite ironic that this podcast is called Roadmap, because it's kind of something that we don't really do a lot of within product and tech at Autotrader. Maybe we should do a little bit more of it, but I've worked in organisations before where there'll be a annual or a quarterly roadmap in perspective, and you'll make your nice roadmap and you'll be able to communicate to people, look, here are all the things that this is the roadmap for the year. In September you can expect this, in October you can expect that. Whereas the reality is we know things change so much. There is a roadmap, there's a clear view of prioritisation, but it's not as concrete or tangible as other places where I've seen it.
Yeah, almost our roadmap is our strategy.
Exactly.
And that's what drives what
and everything else within it is, it can change. Just thinking about because it's something we've talked about again in the past in other little forums, is that the product community itself, so people, product leads, product managers, the product's organisation has changed pretty drastically, I'd say, over the last 3 or 4 years. I sit on the outside and I've got a view of what the buzz, the vibe is, but from people that live and breathe products on a daily basis, how would you summarise that part of the organisation today?
I think a nice way of thinking about people at Autotrade is one Autotrade, and we often talk about one Autotrade, and I think it nicely fits into the product and tech organisation as well. It's not about P, it's not about T, it's about that team together, working together, collaborating, and it's product, tech people, design, data, delivery, all those disciplines really being as close as possible, working together. There was a lot of dynamic that has disrupted this way of working through COVID, and the different ways of working, more remote, were taking place. So we are almost going through another transition now and learning what it means for us. The principles haven't changed. We absolutely value the collaboration, working together. We do believe we drive the best outcomes if we are, if people just can sit next to one another, collaborate. Maybe not every day. I'm not sure that is, you can have days when you are working away from office, that's fine. But we believe by being co-located, you drive the best results overall. So we're trying to figure how we, make it work. It's an ongoing evolution. So you're going from one iteration to another, but it feels like every iteration always feels better. It's an improvement on another one, and that cycle never ends. So if things change, we are trying to review what that means, how can we adjust, but make sure that we are really mindful of what our core principles are, what we want to keep versus what we are happy to compromise on or evolve or change.
Whenever people ask me about how our kind of teams work at Autotrader, I always go back to the Agile Manifesto, and the principles of that still, they feel very embodied within Autotrader and continue to be relevant, like people over process, working software over documentation, accepting changing requirements very late into a process. All of those things still feel not just relevant to how we build software, but how we actually operate as teams more broadly.
So I've got a really cheesy question, because this is how my brain works. So if you're going to describe the P&T culture in a song, there's a particular theme tune. I mean, I'm trying to get a theme tune built. We've got a principal dev ed and one of the other senior devs who's, I think he plays the clarinet. I'm trying to come up with a theme tune for product and tech, but so far not so good. So I wonder whether you had any songs that particularly throw out there as ideas.
Is this where you're going to feed them all in some sort of artificial intelligence and it's going to create some theme song for us?
Yeah, that is a great idea.
You swore there, Pete.
Or is that just too cheesy a question for you two?
How about if we go away, have a think, and next time when we come on, we're going to sing it for you.
Oh, that'd be absolutely awesome. That's the kind of stuff I really, really like. Okay, anyway, right. A bit more of a serious question now. You dodged that one so gracefully. So what excites you most today, whether it be the future or what's happening right now within product and tech at Autotrader?
So I guess we say within product and tech rather than about the products that we're building. So could be both. I'll answer it about product and tech. I think it's been really interesting to see the different disciplines emerge within product and tech. So obviously Karolina and I work within product. We've got about 30 people, and we kind of think of that as our product discipline. We enjoy spending time together as a group of people. We're quite like-minded. We talk about our craft and how to get better at product people. We've got designers that do the same. We've got, engineers, test analysts, data people. So it's really interesting as to see like what's the right level of focus to be putting on the disciplines versus what should we be doing as a broader product and tech community. Because we've recognised that we want to create great product people and great designers, and that requires focusing on those people and those teams, but we don't want those teams to become like a silo or too insular, because ultimately they can only be effective when they're part of a kind of multidisciplinary team. So I guess I'm quite excited that we're starting to think about product and tech at Autotrader. What does that mean? Because we know that we're good at building products, but I don't think we often talk about how we do that collectively as a broader group of people. So even things like they're coming on this podcast and getting lots of different diverse people together to talk about that, I find that quite exciting at the moment.
Cool.
And all of that is particularly important at this moment in time, because the stuff that we are working on touches like across all the teams at Autotrader. Like there are quite big chunky opportunities that we are tackling at the moment, specifically around how we are going to enable car buyers to buy a car online in this most extreme scenario. That is a huge undertaking across product, tech, design, and it's not a small team working on it. It's a big big investment, and big teams working together, and you need to make sure that all of the areas are working really closely in the right way. So that's certainly very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, we just fresh off ATCon 23, our annual all-employee conference. I think the thing that struck me, and especially quite a few of the new starters I've got, is the scale of the organisation. When you bring in like Savannah and our sales colleagues and all the operational teams, I wouldn't say the word is overwhelmed. I was a bit like, wow, I forget how big we are as an organisation.
And we have grown probably in the last few years as well. Yeah. So it feels like, it's a big group of people working on making all of that happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think Autotrader is still small enough to be able to do that. We're a FTSE 100 company. We carry a lot of influence, but we can still fit everybody who works at the company in one room in the conference, which I think is probably quite unusual compared to other companies.
The fact that we just have two offices and the product and teams are co-located in one office in Manchester here, that is amazing, and this is why I think it makes a difference. Yeah,
there's definitely a balance in there. Like on the scale of sizes, we're at that nice place where you feel like there's lots of opportunity, lots of things to go at. You can, you got freedom to move around, swiggle the careers, but at the same time, it's not too big that you're getting lost as just a number.
Yeah, you definitely know people who you work with.
So another one of my wrapping up questions. So if I was someone totally new to Autotrader UK, I'd never met anyone from there, is there particular articles, blogs, things that inspire you around product and tech that they could read, look into, and then that's something that they can go, I can get the vibe of what Autotrader's all about?
I think our blogs is a great place to start, and it's both engineering blogs, design blogs, and just hearing from people who work here what they are proud of and how they are talking about the great work that they are doing. That feels like a great starting point, I would say.
Yeah, Medium blog, engineering blog. We host quite a lot of talks, so generally within the disciplines, so there'll be a tech talks, there'll be design talks, there'll be do product talks, so keep an eye out for those. Listen to the podcast, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about personally yourselves? Where does your inspiration come?
So I go through different phases in terms of reading different books. I've been reading different blogs. Currently I'm more into podcasts because it's just a little bit more time efficient. So my commute to Manchester is about 45 minutes. So post-COVID, I was getting frustrated just sitting in a car doing nothing, so decided to spend this time a little bit more effectively. So podcasts is what I'm listening to now. What I'm listening to at the moment is I'm quite selective in terms of masters of scale, actually, and it's quite interesting because it's a different. There are different interesting tech businesses, big ones and startups, and there are different challenges that they are tackling, which is not product specific as such, but they are product and tech businesses.
Yeah.
So all of that is really relevant. So it's quite good.
What about yourself,
similar,
Dan?
a lot of podcasts. Enjoy Secret Leaders as well. Anyone in the product or design team knows I'm a bit of an Intercom fanboy, so I'll regularly share some of Paul Adams' podcasts. They're great. I actually get quite a lot of stuff off Twitter as well, like following the right people off Twitter, seeing like interesting articles shared. I used to read quite a lot of books, but I've sort of gone. Sort of gone off them a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just going through that little phase at the moment. But I've flipped back into like fiction and stuff like that. So I need to. Like Norse mythology isn't really helping me at work on a day-to-day basis. Well, yeah. Anyway, right. So I'm going to bring this to a wrap. So thanks a lot for joining us on the couch, Ben and Kez. I'm absolutely starving now, so I can't wait for a bit of food on the 6th floor. So big thanks for both sharing your views. We really hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed making it. And thanks for Kez coming in with a really bad cold. So cheers for listening and have a good one.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.